All right, welcome back, everybody. You know, each week we like to check in with our friend Dr. Laura Saunders for a midweek mental health checkup.
Yeah, and today we are tackling a big subject. That's because September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and we're very happy to have our friend Dr. Laura Saunders here. It is such an important topic. Thanks for being here, Doc.
Hello, friends, and happy Wednesday. And yes, we are talking about a very uncomfortable topic for a lot of people, which is suicide, because this is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month.
Which is great, though. I think we really need to talk about this, kind of break the stigma, get it out open on the table and talk about it, especially with some of the statistics that you've brought to us.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to start with teens, because I know in West Hartford they just went through this. There was a very sad situation where a young high school student on the swim team, everything, just people were really shocked, and he killed himself. And we hear these other stories. Is there a reason or a sign that we're seeing more of this? And what do we do?
Well, so you brought up a good point, right? So suicide is one of those things that's really not talked about. So I always say when someone dies unexpectedly and they're not talking about it, it's either an overdose or suicide, right? But to Scott's point, we need to start to really break the stigma. It's important to note that there's never one cause in a situation like that, or in any situation where someone either attempts to kill themselves or actually kills themselves. It's not one cause. It's always multifactorial. It can be very complicated. You know, suicide's the second leading cause of death in 15 to 24-year-olds, right? And this is preventable. And so this is something that's so important to talk about. You know, multiple factors can impact them, including life stressors, prior history of suicide attempts, mental health disorders such as depression and trauma.
And you also say recent or impending crisis or loss, impulsivity and hopelessness, and poor coping and problem-solving skills.
Right. And one of the myths that I'd like to debunk is that if you ask someone about suicide, if you say, you know, are you thinking about ending your life? Are you thinking about killing yourself? The myth is that you'll put the idea in their head. And that is, in fact, a myth. Many people that are struggling mightily have this idea in their head. And if you ask them about it, it becomes a relief that they can say, yes, I'm actually thinking about this and I don't know what to do, right? And I don't want, you know, serious risk issues or serious suicide to be handled by non-professionals. That's where you do need to get the professionals involved.
And so if someone, we had this, there's a deeper dive on the Kara's Cures podcast where we talked about sometimes a teen might just say, I just feel like dying. And it might mean that they're just really overwhelmed, but they're not really at that point. But if someone's talking about suicide, these are things that we have to take seriously. And you recommend that we use that new number 988.
So 988 is the kind of like suicide crisis hotline for those individuals who are experiencing severe mental health crises. So 988, you can also text 741-741, but there are resources out there to get some help and support. And 988 really can get you connected. It can help you either problem solve or de-escalate a situation. It can provide some resources. It can also help you if you are at a point where you need to go to an emergency room to be evaluated. It can give you some guidance on that as well.
Well, let's play devil's advocate here. I'm not going to call 988 because then they're going to know about me, and then they're going to tell people, and then everybody's going to find out. That's not the case? That's
not the case. So 988 is you know, it starts out fairly anonymous, but really what they're trying to do is provide a resource, right? So they're not trying to track people. They're not trying to hunt you down. They're trying to provide a resource. There are trained professionals on 988 that can talk with you and provide information, do some listening. Sometimes people just need to be listened to. Sometimes they just need to release the pain that's going on inside of them, kind of like letting the steam off of the pot of boiling water. So it's really providing a resource that is absolutely critical. We've done segments on 988 here on Great Day, and it is an unbelievably valuable resource in our communities.
So you want us to know the warning signs, like just loss of interest, withdrawal, isolation, and as many as 20% of teens specifically do experience depression at some point before adulthood?
Right, and it's also a myth that suicide comes out of nowhere. Very often those that are close have seen some of the warning signs but didn't know what to do, right? And some of these warning signs are also similar in depression, loss of interest in activities that used to be enjoyable, increase in substance use, right? So substance use is a huge risk factor because that disinhibits you and makes you more likely then to step into something and do something that might be harmful. Making references to ending your life. Very often they give verbal cues or signals that they're in a lot of distress and they're thinking of ending their life. Not being here in the future. So saying, well, that won't matter because I won't be here then anyway, right? So you get some clues and it's time to ask your loved one, if you're the person that's getting this information, and saying, what is wrong? Is there something I can do to help you? How are you feeling right now? Are you thinking of ending your life, right? To ask direct questions, because in fact, that can be a relief.
We only have about 30 seconds, but lock up those firearms, right?
Absolutely. What we say is reduce access to lethal means. Firearms accounted for 55% of all suicide deaths. Lock up those firearms, set the bullets aside in a different place, reduce access to lethal means, and that includes your over-the-counter medication as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Prescription drugs, over-the-counter, right. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Laura Saunders. We appreciate it. Welcome to season 18. We're happy to have you.
We're an adult.
I'm ready to be here.
All right, still ahead on this Wednesday afternoon. The Palace Theater in Waterbury is celebrating its 20th anniversary since reopening with a great lineup for the 2024-2025 season. We're chatting all about it next.
And Big E excitement is growing. Opening day now less than 2 weeks away. We're learning about all the major upgrades you're going to find at the Connecticut building this year. We're going to be there, of course. Great Day Connecticut. We'll be right back.